Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coach and psychic Rita Giganti, and Linda Armstrong will be along in a few moments. Today is Friday, September the 25th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I was telling you before the show, Rita, that I had a story that Cindy Chavez told us on Wednesday, and Dan Mangena and I talked about it yesterday. And I can't say I'm obsessed with it, but it's so fascinating to me that, I mean, yesterday, Dan and I spent half the show on it because it was such a cool thing. Yeah, it was great. And most listeners have heard it by now, but I'll tell it to you very quickly. Here comes Linda, so I can include her in the story as well. But this is something, there she is. But this is something that Cindy told me on Wednesday. Before the show on Wednesday, we had been talking about some stuff, and Star Wars had come into the conversation. So she was carrying on that theme. And she said, there was actually a time when I pulled off the Jedi mind trick. And I said, really? Tell me about that. So the story goes like this. She went to the local DMV a couple years ago, shortly after she married for the second time, in order to change her name on like a car registration or something like that. And she got to the information desk, and the person there said, okay, so what do you need done? She says, well, I need to get the name changed because I just got married and so forth. Oh, okay, well, then you have to go to that line over there, do that. And then when you're done with that one, go to this line over there with that document. And she described this long process that Cindy could tell would take like 2 or 3 hours. She said, she waved her hand. She said, no, I just want to get my new name on the document here. And the person behind the desk said, oh, I can take care of that. Give it to me. So after this long explanation about all the things she had to do, she just repeated it, waved her hand just like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the person said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I have to ask you, have you ever had a similar experience where you pulled off a Jedi mind trick? Maybe unintentionally, because she said she did it unintentionally. But have you ever done that?
That's great.
I mean, you guys hear me?
Hi there, Linda. How you doing?
Wow.
Good. Can you hear me? Because I'm testing out a new mic.
Yeah. You sound
good.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Did you hear the story at all?
I just heard the Jedi mind trick a little bit just now. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, Cindy pulled this off by accident one time. She was at the DMV office shortly after she got married, so she needed to change the name on registration or something. They just directed her to like a 2 or 3 line process to fix it.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, what happened?
Oh.
Uh-oh. I don't know.
She's frozen too, though. Oh, there she goes. Nope, she's gone.
Oh. Okay, well, she'll be back. So anyway,
I've only done it for fun. When you do the hand with it too. My son's done it on me before, and it worked. And I'm like, wait a minute, what did you just do?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because she ended up basically getting this clerk to tell her, it'd take 2 to 3 hours to do this thing. She waved her hand and said, no, I just want to get the name changed. And the clerk said, okay, I'll do it for you right now. And, that was quite unexpected. So
yeah,
that's why I'm curious, has anybody else ever pulled off the Jedi mind trick? So hearing that your son pulled it off, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, he did. We do it just for fun,
Oh, sure. Yeah. But still,
yes.
I mean.
But it really worked on me. I'm like, did you just do that? And he's like, yep. Oh, here's Rita. She's saying, be there in a minute. So she's having some connection trouble.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's all right. Well, she'll reconnect in a moment. But I just thought that was so much fun. Dan and I actually spent yesterday talking about all the different ways that perhaps this has been happening regularly without people realizing that they're doing it. Here she comes. Can you hear us now?
Yeah. Well, I think even more and more these days, especially since telepathy is becoming much stronger with all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't always have to use your words for someone to know what you're requesting or what you're asking for. Yeah.
Sure.
Especially the universe.
So what do you think, Rita? I mean, I presume you got the story because I heard you laugh at one point. Have you ever pulled anything like that off?
Believe it or not, I heard the 2 most important parts, and I was able to put it together because the rest of it, I could not hear you at all.
Just bleeped out. Oh well.
So when you did one of these, I understood because I'm a Star Wars person. So I'm like, oh, okay, she got the person to do it.
And got the guy to do it really quickly, right there on the spot.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Totally.
Do you know of any times where you've pulled that off, maybe by accident?
I don't think so. I
No?
can't think of any.
Okay.
No, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. You know,
I
there's
think,
those days that just go 100% your way and you never know why.
well, that's true.
Like yeah, you can never figure out why everything goes right that day.
It just
So,
happens.
yeah, that I've experienced that, but not the Jedi one.
Okay. Well, I'll
But
tell
I
you
like
one
it.
thing that came out of the conversation that Dan Mangena and I had yesterday. He was kind of projecting how it could work that on a regular, like on a quantum mechanics basis, how it could actually happen. And I thought his explanation was interesting. And it occurred to me, we've talked a lot here on the Friday podcast about how the energy of the planet as a whole is rising. I'm wondering if maybe we'll see more stuff like that, like the Jedi mind trick happening just because of the energy rising.
Oh,
Absolutely.
definitely. Definitely.
100%.
Especially people who are attuned, to a higher frequency. Absolutely.
Okay. So pretty cool. That's good stuff. So anyway, Carlos should be around in a few minutes. And just for people who may not have been listeners back then, Carlos was actually on the show for about a 2-month period from October to December 2018. In the last month and a half, he was actually on with you and me, Linda. He did the Friday shows with us. And I don't know about you. I haven't really followed him too closely to find out what he's been doing. I know he was in LA. He moved to Miami and tried to get to New York. And that's about where I lost the trail. But apparently
Well,
he
you know
has
what?
this really cool story that he's going to be telling us.
I just happened upon a post of his. I don't always see them. I'm hardly ever really on Facebook. So I guess it was meant to be that I saw it. And then he has some story. I'm like, all right, cool. Come and tell us,
That's great. Well, it's going to be good
Yeah.
to reconnect with him, especially since he's a funny guy too. So that makes it even more fun. There's one thing I can bring in. We actually don't have a whole lot of psychic questions, but Nasha sent something in, and I wanted to make sure that I gave her a chance to be heard. So, Rita, this is from Nasha, who's a longtime listener, and she's asked for a lot of help over the years. But I figured I'd bring this in today because we have a couple minutes before Carlos gets here. And she's just asking what her future holds for her. She says she's been trying to change her life, but she gets stuck at square one. And she had somebody tell her one time, I guess it was a psychic, tell her that there was like a negative spirit or some white and black magic done on her. So she was curious what you could tell her about, is there any truth to that or what's going on?
It's like I tell everybody when it comes to something like that, you believe in it, then it's there. I don't believe in stuff like that. So you know how the Italians, they do the Maloikia, or they carry the horn on their chest to block out. Sure, there's negativity, but if you hold on to that it's there, then it's there. So that's what's getting in her way. It's nothing. Do you know what she does for a living?
I really have no knowledge about that.
Okay. Let me just ask for a second. Hang on. Oh, she needs to be of service on this earth. Like there are those who are in service, like teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, things like that. But it doesn't have to be that, but she needs to be of service. She connects to animals, and something in that form is good for her energy. She definitely needs to be outside more, but most importantly, she needs to release the fact that there's something negative attached to her, because she's buying into it, and that's why nothing is moving.
And it's attached to her because she's focused on it.
Yes. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like especially with whether you're a counselor or you're a psychic or you're, a therapist, whatever it is, people take your stuff to heart, like they take what you say literally. They're not ready yet to even own themselves. And, and you're putting shit in their heads that potentially can harm them. Like you have to be very careful how you approach people, especially people that you don't know.
Sure.
And how they would react to that. Imagine if someone said, your whole life is going to suck because blah, 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 and then you carried that I had that someone come to me and say that to me. and that they went to somebody else and they said all these horrible things. And 2 out of the 100 that they said kind of came to pass. But, it's like having to rework the whole psyche after that, because that got implanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't like, that's when people say to me, are you the type of psychic that brings in bad news? There is no bad news here. Absolutely none. There's all, if I have bad news, it's not coming to me. I'm only coming in with what's good for you.
Yeah. I'm going to add to that. I think that it's the person who's giving that message is just not in a high vibration. They're not really working with the light, or they wouldn't be sending those messages in. Rather, they should look for whatever programs and blocks she has that is kind of hanging in her energy field, but not that it has to be some, evil demon or whatever. I mean, you could have entities, like you can pick up energies. Doesn't mean they're evil. It just means that they might not be supporting you. But again, it's because you're allowing it in, number one.
Right.
I mean, if you're working with light, if you just keep bringing the light in, it's not going to come in because you're just holding too much light. So it can't come in. That's the way I look at it.
And also you have the ability to tell it to leave.
Absolutely.
People don't understand and think that they have the power to say, get out. You don't belong here. I'm not comfortable, Yeah. The other, there was something else telling me, and I of course, I'm having one of those moments.
I probably cut you off, Rita. That's what happens.
No, that's all right. It was something else that,
but she's granting it. Maybe this will bring you back to it. If you grant that beingness, then even if it's not there, it's there because you're giving it the beingness. Like you're holding it as its own entity, which is a thought form, right? That you're putting there based on what somebody else said. Doesn't necessarily mean it was there to begin with.
Now, I want to, yes, thank you. And you brought it back to me. I want to say that there are psychics that get premonitions. So if they're sitting with somebody and they have a premonition, and they know they can help the person, maybe even save their life, then that's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make that clear. Don't bring in just negative to bring in negative. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's more hurtful for that person. Even if I saw something that was of a lower vibration, I would say it in a way that was not negative to make them then, go throughout the day worried that, oh my God, I have this negative, thing connected to me and it's going to hurt me and maybe it'll hurt my family and blah, blah, blah. It's really, you have to be very careful how you use your words and work with people.
Yeah, because again, then you just go into work. Sorry, well, then you go into working with light and doing some kind of process to bring that person up to where they're not feeling the effect of whatever this thing was that somebody labeled, right?
So, exactly. And that's exactly what you would do if you were working with them, or I would do if I wasn't even doing a healing session, I was doing a psychic reading, I'd be telling them positive things to do to release that.
Yeah, I feel like it's just too easy. Like it's an easy way for someone to maybe not, if they don't even know how to help that person, to just say that rather than
that. Then comes afterwards. Then comes, I can release that entity, but it's going to cost you $900 for me to release. You've seen that before, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In fact, I had a client who went to someone local. She didn't tell me the name, and I don't even want to know who did this kind of thing for her. And she sold her like $30,000 worth of crystals and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. And she told her not to see any other healers while she was going through the process. So she stopped, she canceled her sessions with me. She had a bunch. And then she came back later. I'm like, listen, first of all, talk to me first about it while you're not coming. And then maybe I can help you with this, because she realized she was being had after she spent like a fortune with her.
We spoke a moment ago about the Jedi mind trick. What we're describing here, it could also be described as the Sith mind trick. Basically trying to con you into something and make you believe something that you don't need to believe.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, okay. We've got that done, and something new has happened here because Carlos is in the house. Hey, hello, Carlos.
It's great.
It's been a couple years. How you doing?
Very good, very good. Yes, it's great to see you guys, and I'm glad to see everything is moving along here years later. It's I kind of been through my journey, and it's nice to see you guys are still out here helping people. And yeah, great to see you guys.
So are you in New York? You were in the New Yorker hat.
Yeah, I'm now in
Right.
New York. I've been bouncing back and forth across the country for the last 5 years or so, it seems like, but finally here and trying to get settled. So yeah.
You've had quite the journey. I wasn't able to follow all of it as you were posting on social media. I know you moved from LA to Miami. You were trying to get to New York. That was about the last I heard about it. But
Yeah.
you told Linda you got a manifestation story, and I kind of suspect that's tied into it. So I'll just turn it over to you. What happened?
Yeah, no, it's
Oh, wait,
all.
hold on.
Uh-huh.
This is Rita.
Oh, yes,
hello,
you haven't met Rita.
Yeah, Rita.
Carlos.
Very nice to meet you. Yes, nice to meet you. But yeah, I mean, I think, just to kind of reiterate what's already been talked about on the podcast and what the podcast is all about. It's just life, right? Life moves and is always continuously changing and evolving, and the universe is always trying to pull you in different directions, and you just have to be very hyper aware and be able to kind of follow that wave. So I would say right now I'm in flow, and we talk about that all the time, and that's kind of what made me reach out when Linda had commented on a post of mine. I just thought, hey, this is a great story to share, so that other people can see how this works in real practice, So I think the last time we spoke, I was doing some comedy and acting in LA. Yeah.
Yep.
And hindsight is 2020, right? But what ended up happening is those things started to fall apart. The acting, I had an acting gig and I was going to move to a new place, and all of a sudden things started kind of dropping off. And I know a lot of people are experiencing that now, especially during COVID. You had your life kind of set in a trajectory, and then all of a sudden things happen that are outside of your control, right? And so how do you bounce back from something like that? Or how do you kind of move forward? And for me, it was just, doing a reevaluation. It's like, hey, was I trying too hard to push this, thing that I really wanted, but maybe wasn't for me at the time, or there was other, opportunities out there. And so it's kind of taking a step back, going to Miami for a little bit allowed me to really take a step back and view everything from a different perspective. So so I got to Miami, had to move in with my parents, which is again something that's very prevalent nowadays,
Sure.
with everything that's going on. And I just got a taste of that a little bit earlier than most, and yeah, I didn't have I was unemployed, so I was looking for work. At the time I was working at Top Golf. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's a family friendly golf place where they serve food and stuff, and I was working as a drink runner over in Miami while I was looking for work, right? And that I think was a big turning point in my journey, just because before that it was like trying to attain these things, and ego plays a big part, right? You're always trying to get rid of more and more ego and trying to be more and more enlightened, and that was a really humbling experience, right? So going from I worked at Amazon.com as a marketing manager and advertising manager, and the height of my career, and then comedy was going really well as well for a while. So when you take a lot of wins, a loss or kind of a setback can be really humbling, right? So working alongside college kids, making minimum wage, running tables and stuff, but a lot of times people say how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So just, hey, I'm working minimum wage, but I'm going to work hard. I'm just going to work hard, and something's gonna happen for me, and started controlling the things that I can control, right? So outside, all these different aspects are kind of being controlled for you, whether it's circumstance or so. Trying to hold on to those things that I can control. So working out, eating right, again, working hard at the job that I have at the time, and not worrying about the job that I may get or what I don't get, or when I have interviews and people say no. It's just really being focused, on the things that again, that I can control, and really taking the way of the universe, right? And so from that, I got a call from a gentleman who was starting a marketing agency, and said, "Hey, I want to start an Amazon specific marketing agency."
Ooh.
And yeah, and just so happened that I had the exact experience that he was looking for, and it was in New York. So again, manifesting that reality, and wanting to get back to New York City. And yeah, things just kind of, again, I'm not understanding why I was for like 6 months getting no's, and going on interviews and getting no's, and you can start to get frustrated. And again, I think that ties in a lot to what's going on now. I have a friend who was unemployed just right before COVID, and then it hit. And so it's just like, it can start to really, affect your self-esteem and your confidence. And when you're not, manifesting is more about feeling than anything else, right? And so when you're not feeling your best, when you're feeling down, when it's harder to kind of manifest those things that you really want. And so again, by focusing on those things that I can control, that was me combating, those circumstances. And so he said, "Hey, you're going to be the first employee." And it was a risk on my part, and it was a risk on his part. But over the last year, we were able to expand this business from me to 3 different offices around the globe. Yeah, wow. So we have an Australia office, a UK office, and a New York City office, and grow to 25 employees, right? And so, yeah, it just and this is all within a year's time. Getting back to New York, meeting great people, right inside my building, right? And so, right as COVID was happening, and there's a lot of isolation going on, I didn't have to experience any of those things, because, from getting the job to then you start, I've always said this is, when things are for you, it's not necessarily that they're easy, but things start to kind of fall into place for you, right? And you can see that, and you should take that as a sign, okay, hey, I'm in the right direction. Just as, on the other end of the spectrum, when things started falling out from under me, and the acting and the comedy thing, start to, take a step back and say, okay, wait, is this pushing me in a different direction, right? Because through every setback I've ever had, have come some of the biggest triumphs, right? And it's just by taking my mind away from the negative and the circumstance, and really just say, hey, if things are going bad for me, be hyper aware, because there's opportunity that's coming. And they say this is really cheesy, but when one door opens, another door. I mean, when one door closes, another door opens, and it's completely the truth, right? And so, having done that, throughout the year, I got a call from another agency that said, hey, we want you to do that for us. And I said, in the middle of COVID, right? And so, again, it's really just not expecting it, nothing, not calling for anything, but that was my next, what the universe was calling for me next, right? And to kind of evolve from where I was, and even take it a step further. And is it where I thought I was going to be when I was acting and doing comedy? No, but it is, blessing nonetheless. And so I still do, the comedy and do it for fun, and do it on the side. But really, my trajectory was, on another path, and being able to really let go and ride that wave. And like I said, now, having got a call from that company, and starting with them, and it was scary at first, right? So it's like, hey, I've done this once, but now I have to do it again. And, but I think it's very important also to make decisions based on possibilities and not fear, right? And so it's hey, what can this be? And in doing that, you manifest, positive outcomes as well, with a lot of doubt. And I think that a lot of times people get stuck because there's just a lot of uncertainty in making that next move, or making that next, jump. But I think through COVID, especially, and this is what I've been telling a lot of my friends, that's unemployed, or people that got laid off, is that, I was forced during that time of not having a job, and I was forced to really be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And it's something that's a muscle that you build, and it's like through force, because nobody chooses to be there, right? But through force and just being uncomfortable, and then finally you get to a point where it's like, hey, the next time something uncertain happens, I'm equipped, right? And so now I think that people are going through that on a mass scale, right? It's like everybody's going through crazy uncertainty, and but again, I think that this is going to lead to, more people manifesting their ideal futures, right? It's because, if you wanted to start a business before, you're like, I don't want to leave this job. I have, healthcare, I have all this stuff, I have kids, and then you get laid off anyways. And it's like, wait, now it's like, maybe I don't have that fear anymore, because now I've been equipped. I could handle it. I did it and I could handle it. So maybe I'm going to start that business, or I'm going to change jobs, right? We've been at the same job for 10 years and I didn't really like, and now with all this uncertainty, it doesn't seem as far-fetched to go and, hey, let's look for another job. You're not going to know people, and you're not going to, you have to start from new, but you've done that, you've kind of been through that. And so,
you know what, Carlos, I love this story, because we've been talking about exactly this for a long time now.
Yeah.
That this whole thing is coming about, and it's having people see, well, what do I really want?
Right.
And it's giving them almost permission to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, through force, sometimes the universe will force you to,
I think people are not used to going outside their comfort zones. They like things to stay stable in the way they are, but they don't realize that we're in change. And if they can just move with that change and the flow of things, it would be easier to manifest what it is that they're looking for. So you went with the flow. That just proved, the whole thing.
Yeah, like he proved everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Perfect timing, Carl. Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about your comfort zone. It's something that I've grown over a lot of years to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think from very young, I was always doing the new thing, or something that I'd never done before. In college, I worked for Disneyland as a character, and it's like, hey, I'm going to go to this audition with 5,000 people and see what happens. It's like, I've never done it before, but whatever, let's try. And so I think the more, and I don't have kids yet, but when I do, I think that's something that I really want to kind of instill in them is just try as many new things as possible. Just always try, because then you get used to some change, right? It's like even during college years, I probably had 12 jobs from 16 to the time I started a career. And it's an old school mentality. It's like, oh, don't jump around. It doesn't look great, but you learn something from every one of those jobs, and you learn something from starting new over and over and over again. And so I think there's something to be said about, to your point, is to get out of your comfort zone as much as you can, as frequently and as early as you can. Some people, it's a little later in life, but even still, Ray Kroc didn't, start with McDonald's until he was 50 years old.
Something like that,
so it's never too late. It's never too late to.
Colonel Sanders in his 60s.
Right, to try something new. Just like, hey, I might as well.
And you know what I love too is when you were talking about the whole story, you were saying things like, so this happened, and he asked, what can I make of this?
Right.
Like, instead of going into the pity party, when you ask questions, you open up possibilities. And that's what he's talking about. You're saying there's many possibilities. When one door closes, the other one opens. And the other cool point I want to make too is this is how the universe works. Mm-hmm. Because why did I haven't seen any of your posts in a long time. I'm barely ever on Facebook, but I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I commented, and then you told me about this. And it's like, when things are supposed to come together, they just do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think also too, Linda, the not having expectations of things happening. Like, you went and you tried with 5,000 other people just to do it, just to try, not expecting anything. Right. You don't have so much invested in it, whether negative or positive. You're going in there like free fall,
right? And
end up getting it, But when you have expectations, you end up getting that disappointment because it's never even what you expected, even if it does happen, you know, because there's so much connected to it, so much expectation connected to it that it's never good enough.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, and this has probably happened to everybody. It's like, you know, when you go out with friends, right, and you do something spontaneous, there's no expectation, you have the best time, right?
Yeah.
But when you go and you've been planning something and it's you have it in your mind how it's supposed to go, it's never going to go, you know, exactly how you plan. But I think to even more so to your point is beyond going in with no expectations is avoiding going in with negative expectations. So a lot of times I go in, this happened to me a lot of, you know, at Disneyland, for example, started working there and there was a Fantasmic. It's like a famous show at Disneyland, and everybody, all the performers that work there have been trying to get into the show for 10 years. This is like a really, and I showed up this first week and they said, hey, auditions for this show are next week. And I said, okay, let's sign up. You know, who knows what might happen, right? And so again, going in with no expectations, but I showed up to the audition for this specific special show, and in line, I'm with other, you know, gentlemen, and they're talking, and they say, you know, oh, I don't think I'm gonna get it anyways, but it's not something that I want anyways, or oh, if I don't get it, and they're going through all these scenarios in their head of negative expectations, what they already expect. And a lot of people say this, they're like, well, I don't like to get my hopes up. And I have the complete opposite, you know, mantra. And that's, for me, it's like, let's say, you know, you had a job interview and they're gonna let you know in a week, right? You can have your hopes up all week and be feeling great and be feeling fantastic. And you know what? At the end of the week, if you don't get it, you had a whole week of feeling really good and putting positive energy out there and positive, you know, having positive feelings, and you're going to be disappointed, but that disappointment will last, you know, a day or two and you'll get over it, rather than, you know, being in agony for a whole week and then you still might not get it. Right. And so you know, what's the alternative for me? And if you look at both sides of that equation or that coin, what is going to manifest your best reality, right? And it's going to be the positive. It's going to be, hey, thinking about, you know, how, like, when I got this new job, you know, it was kind of a lengthy process, and you know, between the last interview and when I got an offer, it was every day thinking about how am I going to feel when I get this call from this company offering me the job, and I'm mad, and I'm visualizing, right, and happy, and just triumphant, and having my hands in the air, and who am I going to call? I'm going to call my mom, I'm going to call my sister, and going through this, you know, how am I going to feel when this happens, right? Because again, manifesting isn't just, hey, I think and I want this, but it's the more feeling that you can put into it, the more vibrations get into the universe, and the more that comes back. And so just really thinking about positive, like, oh man, like when they offer this, oh, I'm just going to be over the moon and I'm going to be so excited. And you know what, they did, and it worked out. But even if they hadn't, you know, I would have had a whole week or so of just real positive energy. And so that's kind of the way I look at things.
Yeah. And that week of positive energy, even though if you were let down, is still opening up another possibility to come to you.
Yeah, of course. It's that's why I always try to stay in positive spirits. And you know, sometimes it's hard. Like I said, when circumstances come at you, and that's why I'm a big proponent about, you know, controlling the things you can control, because you need to combat those negative feelings somehow, and circumstances and things that are outside of your control. If you worry about them so much, then you get lost in it, right? And so trying to, you know, have tools in your toolbox to constantly keep, you know, that energy positive, and to keep it as high vibration as you can, you know. And I say as you can because sometimes, you know, it's hard. I get sad, you know, I get frustrated just like everybody else. But it's asking the right questions. And you're right, Linda, your mind is a very powerful tool. And depending on the questions you ask, it'll always give you an answer. And so if you're asking the right questions, like, well, what does this mean? How can I go forward from here? If this isn't for me, what other opportunities are? Those kinds of positive questions, your mind will, I promise you, will always come up with an answer. But also, you know, on the other side of the coin is, if you're, why does this happen to me? why am I, why does nobody want me? Those kinds of questions, your mind will also come up with answers. So
yeah, you're going to get answers that fill that.
Right.
Mhm.
So
We don't want you because you're an asshole.
yeah. So it's very important, how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
I liked what you were saying, Linda, earlier about how he, in his story, has been basically acting out what we've been talking about here on the show for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that, on top of that, in the midst of what is generally considered to be the worst economic downturn in the last 12 years, you have had a success story. And it's a major success story happening during the worst of it.
Yeah.
I would think, I'm going to speculate here, I would think that people are curious about that story because it's so outside the norm and they want to hear it. Am I wrong about that?
I mean, I think it's an interesting situation because although I really want to, celebrate my accomplishments, right? It is a tough time to do so, right? Because not everybody is doing well. And so I've dealt with some guilt even in that capacity. It's like, hey, I'm, a lot of things are falling into place for me, but this is an anomaly. And right. And so, being able to more so than kind of telling my accomplishments and having people ask, it's more so me giving advice, right, to that friend who became unemployed. And I just went through that. Just say it wasn't during COVID, but I just went through that. And so all the things that he's feeling, I have felt. And being able to explain, hey, go ahead and do the things you can control, and giving that advice. And so and I do know that it's like I shouldn't have a guilty feeling, right? But it's again, being human.
Well, we all have stuff to work on. I mean,
right, and that's something that I work through. But I just feel, every day I wake up with gratitude, and I think that having that.
So Carlos, you're doing the right thing. Just take guilt out of the picture, because as you hold your accomplishment and you hold that energy, you can only influence people by the energy you hold.
Right.
So if you're going to feel guilty about it, that's not the energy you want to put out, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So rather shine that light of, look, it happened for me. Who am I? It happened to anybody. So
right.
let's see what you need to clear, or, like work on, or let me help you change your mindset, which is what you're doing. But just take guilt out of the picture.
Yeah, trying.
Well, it's a good point, because I think probably that we could kind of qualify it or quantify it as a fear of success. I mean, it's not really fear, it's a guilt, but it's in the same emotional ballpark.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who do have fear of success, even if they're not intending to, even if they really think that they don't, they can still be haunting them. So again, hearing what you were just saying, Linda, I think it's going to help a lot of people, because when we're in the midst of what we're in the midst of right now, those negative thoughts you were talking about, Carlos, they're rampant. They're everywhere. Everybody's focusing on them. And that shift can be a tough shift to make, except when you're listening to LOA today. But other than that.
No, and I think there's a lot of things that, I mean, going through what I went through again, there's these little things that you don't really notice at the time. And again, it's just putting tools in your toolbox, right? It's like, hey, not having money, guess what I had to do? Budget. I had a budget. And it's not something that I was great at before, but now, hey, I have the tools to do that. Or, boundaries is a big thing for me. It's like trying to secure my boundaries. And now I have, I don't let, I control my energy, right? So the energy around me. So it's like, hey, I'm there to help. But at the same time, it's like, I'm trying to protect, my energy, and make sure that the people that I hang around with are genuine. They are high vibration, and they're, and all those things again will help you to kind of get to that high vibration state where you start to feel flow, and things start to go your way. So it's all these little pieces. It's putting together, and again, going through different struggles will give you, each one of those, when you go through something, when somebody's bringing you down and you finally get out of that, well, now you have that, in your mind. Now you can, to start to set some boundaries and those things. So it's, definitely need to be, especially during this time when people are struggling, it's very important to look at what lessons are you learning from this. Is it patience? Is it humility? There's always some really good takeaways. And if you go through it without taking anything out of it, then that's really when it's a loss, right? So it won't be a loss unless you don't learn anything from it, right? So
you know what I wanted to add for you, Carlos, is, and don't feel bad if they don't take it, if they can't hold it, because that's their story. You
Right.
still shine that light, and it's like people, without, like, maybe without even judging, like, God, if they would just do this, they could help themselves or whatever it is, right? We gotta, like, allowing people to be where they are.
Yeah.
And for you not to feel bad if they can't take it or run with it or do it, or like you didn't give them enough or you didn't help them, because it's not your job. You can just inspire and influence.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's
Well,
also.
that would
Oh, go ahead.
I think, affect him if he had an expectation of, again, of them and what they would do with it. If he's just freely giving the advice, and, like Spirit always tells me, it's none of your business what other people think of you.
Right.
Just help them the best way you can, and what they do with that, they do with that. So, if you don't have an expectation, then it's not going to affect you negatively.
Yeah, very true.
So, not to put Rita on the spot.
Oh, come on. We're going to put Rita on the spot now. Okay.
But wouldn't it be cool if Carlos wanted to get like a little reading from Rita as to what she's seeing there?
I don't know if you know this, Carlos. Rita is a psychic, and we've been doing a lot of psychic readings for listeners over the last few weeks. So that's what Linda's basically offering you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. I'm very open to all kinds of healing and to energy, all that stuff. So I'll I mean.
Well, your soul work is you being a comedian. That's your soul work. Like, sometimes our soul work and our work are one and the same, which is what I do, right? So for you, your soul work is that comedian piece of you. That's what helps people through their daily life. It brings them joy. It brings them happiness. And it lifts your energy up. Your work, whatever you're doing now, is going to triple in about 2 years, because you're going to be owning your own piece of whatever company this is. So it's only going to improve as time moves on. The fact that you set up the energy the way you did prior to even getting this was what you needed to propel that in the 2 years that are coming. So, nobody's gonna be able to pull you back down again. Like, now you're off to the races. Now it's gonna be, who can you help? And again, no expectations, but by you doing what you're doing, who can you help and bring them with you to that place? Because the more that happens, the more you expand, the more they expand, and then all of a sudden, like everything else, it just reverberates around the earth.
Right.
So just be Spirit's giggling because I'm giggling, because I'm thinking to myself, think about what you want to do with all the money you're going to make. But more importantly, think about how you can serve the greater good with it.
Right.
Because that's what's going to eventually happen. You're going to take it and make, it's something even more than what it is. Yeah. So the guy that you met was the conduit, but you're going to expand it on, let's call it like a multi-level consciousness than what it is right now. This is just like, he sparked you, right? You took the spark, and now it's like, what, on the 4th of July, it's like a sparkler. Then it becomes one of those things that you see that goes boom in the air, and it just, all these flying colors start coming out. That's going to be the end result.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I moved to New York, is not only the energy that I can get, but you're in contact with so many people, and there's just energy in the air all the time. And so that is something I've thought about, you get to a point where you're doing fine, but it's like, now how can you go and you can serve others, right? So
and that's what you had to get to, and why you went through what you did to become to find the humility, to become humbled. It was to be able to put you in the place of everyone else, of what they're experiencing, so that when you reach the level you're going to reach, you know how to pull them with you.
Right.
You won't even have to. It's going to be like, going to be like Jesus walking on water, and they're just going to walk kind of thing. So no, it's beautiful. It really is, because they're going to really find themselves in you. you know, because we're all within each other, right? We can all look at each other and find a piece of us within each of us.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing. You're becoming like that light, that spark that everybody's going to get a piece of. And that's just amazing. It's just beautiful.
I don't know about Carlos, but I had like head to toe goosebumps. Like, boy, it really resonated what Rita was saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's very in line with kind of my thoughts, right, and my feelings. So I think that yeah, thank you for that. But yeah, I agree. It's something that I've already been kind of mulling over as far as being able to serve, right? Because yeah, and I guess that's maybe that's where some of the guilt comes from, is just like, I want to help everybody, right? And it's like, well, also being patient,
Right.
being patient and being able to help people in their own time and place. So,
and not everybody can take it. Like us healers, no, not everybody can take it. Why does one person heal like this and the other one takes like never? You know?
And I think you actually are helping people. And the reason I say that is you were on the show with us from like October through December 2018.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in time, Linda and I could both tell it was very easy to see that you already had built up a very consistently focus on the positive kind of mentality. Right. And even though you went through a period that basically knocked you on your butt, you, because you had been building that up for so long and you continued, it sounds like you did continue it during that time. In fact, you actually took a time to take a step back and kind of reevaluate and check exactly where you are and so forth. But you still stay with it. You told a story about how, you know, you always think about what's the next thing coming in terms of hope, not in terms of will my hopes be dashed. Right. So again, you're doing all these things for all these years, just focusing on, I'm loving, here's what I'm enjoying, here's what I feel good about. Focus, 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 focus. What did that do? Well, it set you up. Yeah. All of that work that you did for those years, both before you were on the show and after you were on the show, have set you up for this point in time. You were ready to receive it at that point because of that work. That's the object lesson, I think.
No, I mean,
what people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was saying what people realize is they ask for something, right? Mm-hmm. And then it may happen months later, it may happen years later, but they've asked for something in their soul. Mm-hmm. And then it all of a sudden it happens and they go, shit, how did I get here? All those little steps in between is what got you. That's what Walt is saying. Right. But initially you asked for this somewhere in your soul, and now it's just coming to fruition.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that a lot of people, if you're religious, they say, this is the saying, they say, be ready for your blessing, or right, and that for me is paramount, right? Because again, not being a great budgeter, and not, you know, living above my means and all this stuff that has to do with ego, right? And as you're young, you're in your 20s and you're going through it, you know, I wouldn't be able to be successful. If I got more money, I would have got into more debt, right? Or
right.
You know, and so sometimes, you know, you have to be, you know, ass kickings always work, right? It's sometimes you have to get, you know, knocked on your butt, and again, having to be forced to go through that. And now, you know, as I become more successful, I'm able to really be ready for that, you know, before I wouldn't have been. But to your point about asking for it, I'm very big on visualizations. I think once I started this with the company I did that grew over the last year, I started vision boarding again. So I have my vision board. I'll show you guys here. I have it here on my phone, so I see it daily.
Oh, okay.
You see all those photos there. And just so happens, I refreshed it. I said, hey, you know, I'm going to refresh this vision board. And once you're in flow, things just start happening quickly, right? And so I refreshed the vision board. The first vision board had New York on it, had, you know, all these things, and I had gotten halfway there, and so I refreshed the vision board. And one of them was this apartment that I'm living in now, the exact one, actually.
Exact one.
Yes, I saw this picture of this apartment. I said, you know, I put it right on the vision board from Zillow or Truly or wherever, and I said, you know, I was gonna be making a move soon, and I just kind of put it there. And again, looking at it every day, just on my phone as I unlock the screen, and it's something subconscious, right? Every once in a while, I would actually take a second and look at each picture But yeah, it's the same. I don't know if you can see it here. Oops. That's that
Yeah.
exact place is where I'm at right now. And so um, you know, just a testament to and not only working when you're in flow, it just happened a lot quicker then, right? And
Right.
yeah.
And by the way, some listeners are going to want to know what the app is that's creating that little splash
Sure.
screen
No,
for you.
this is great. It's like a little board. Let me see. It's called HHVB. So it's
HHVB.
HH and then V as in Victor, B as in Brian. HHVB.
I'll
Yeah,
make a note of that.
you can just upload your pictures and you can move them around and pin them just um, like a real pin board, right? And so it's something that you have with you at all times. And again, not even thinking about it as you check your phone. You know, a lot of us have bad habits where we're on our phone too much. Well, might as well make it work for you, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, make you see the things that you want to manifest daily. So
Once
You
again,
know,
turning it into a positive.
yeah.
and it feels like you could probably even package how you've grown that company. Now you're growing another one, and like that process of building whatever, even whether it's a company or even something else in your life. I don't know. Maybe there's something there with you packaging your method,
Mhm.
which can also include the mindset. So it could in some way, maybe that also works for building your life. Doesn't have to be a corporation.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. I think a big part as well is you have to keep expanding your reality, right? And so at this point, I'm trying to manifest things for. And I told my little brother this. This is when I'm living in the exact kind of place that I've always wanted, and I'm having the job really that I've always wanted. And but there's still a lot of life to live, right? And so I had to now expand. It's like when you get to what you've been wanting to manifest, it's a weird feeling. It's almost like, hey, I got it, but now what, right? Like you have to Rita's point, it's like, you know, helping people or just starting to manifest more.
Expand the family.
Yeah, I mean, expand my mentality, and that's something that I'm doing for the first time, and so it's something that is um, new to me, and it's challenging. You know, it's to now think about something bigger, more grand. It's almost like, how could I even get there? But if you really think 10 years ago, when I was thinking about this, I would have had the same feeling, right? So it's scary to kind of think outside of even what your wildest dreams would have been, to kind of try to manifest something bigger. I think that yeah, that can be a little daunting as well. That's where I find myself now.
And how about your comedy? Are you bringing that, how you did that growth in through your comedy? Like, because people can learn to grow just through you making fun of it all.
Yeah, I mean, comedy is helped me in a lot of ways. I think one is just to, again, being new and not having any expectations, and just really doing what you think is necessary, without any of the rules, right? So you'll get into any industry or anything new, and people that have been there for years and say, "Oh, this is how it's done." Well, you have to do it like this. Why? Well, I don't know. It's just always been done like that way.
Not anymore.
Right.
Everything's new.
Right, going in fresh and you know, creating my own rules and doing it the way that I saw fit. And even though, you know, it didn't end up in me on Comedy Central, but you know, it really helped me to take everything as it comes. Like starting a company, being the first employee is you know, just as daunting as anything else. I've never done that before. I've never had the kind of pressure or the expectations that come with that. But again, having done things brand new and without rules, it was more so of, let me figure out how to get it done, rather than hey, I don't know specifically, you know, this one thing. You know, it's like I think if you have the right mentality and the right attitude, you know, a lot of things are possible. So
And of course, life throws curveballs at us all the time. I mean, it's not always an upward trajectory. Sometimes we have downs. We live in a polarity universe, so that's going to happen. But what I'm loving about your story is you are acquiring and accumulating so many good feeling experiences. Yeah, there's the big one of, oh yeah, I had this big career shift, but there are lots of little ones what our friend Dan Mangena calls the micro shifts, the micro steps. All those little micro steps you're filling in so that the next time some curveball comes along and you swing and miss, it won't matter. The whole disappointment will probably last 10 seconds and then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, it's a muscle, just like everything, just like positivity, and you have to practice. You have to practice it, and it's not always easy, but that's why to Linda's point, that's why I do try to shine my light, all the time. And I have friends that'll say, "Man, you're just always positive." And I haven't met somebody who's always just constantly positive. And I think, well, yeah, I mean, what's the alternative, right? I don't want to feel crummy. If I have the choice, I'm gonna feel great. I'm gonna feel fantastic. And so, living life as a choice, right? It's like living life as if it were on purpose.
Yes.
It's not happening to me. It's like, hey, I get to wake up and I get to make a lot of choices, whether I'm going to be grateful or whether I'm going to be cynical or whether I'm going to be positive or negative, or people that I'm going to have around, or people that I tend to not hang around as much. All those, your life is filled with a lot of these little micro choices, I think, as well. And when you start to kind of take each one at a time, you can start to make some big shifts.
Do you take the time each day to experience that gratitude, that appreciation?
Yeah, no, I'm very scatterbrained, ADD kid. So I have certain routines that I have to put in place just to function on the level that I want to function. And meditation is a big one. So in the mornings, right, waking up, doing 10, 20-minute meditation, having some silence, doing some stretching, doing things that kind of start your day off, feeling good, is a big part of my process. So and a big part of that is gratitude. It's just being extremely grateful. And even more so now. I think I wake up every morning with even bigger sense of gratitude, just because, again, to your point, it's an anomaly right now what I'm going through, and I know what I've been through, right? And so when you have those lows, it's humbling, but it's also when you get back to a place or even exceed your expectations of where you want to be, you don't ever forget to be grateful. It's like, I went from a highest high to a lowest low. So I know that, everything is temporary, and everything can be gone in an instant. And so I think it's, having that thought that keeps me grateful.
Awesome.
Very good. I love it.
Thank
This is a great story.
Much for sharing.
I'm sorry?
Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I mean, this is always fun to talk with like-minded, folks, and everybody's listening, to be able to take something from it. Like I said, I don't like to give advice as much as I like to share stories, because, advice, maybe, 10% of somebody's life as they explain it to you, right? And there's all these other things, and everybody has, their own specific ways of and personalities and all these things. So advice is fleeting, but if you share stories with people, they can kind of pick out their own learnings and lessons, and oh, okay, I like how he did it like that, let me try that. Or and I think that's a little bit more helpful in my opinion.
Really good. I'm going to actually piggyback on that and take the opportunity to remind people what I usually remind people about around this time during the show, which is, if you haven't downloaded the LOA Today app, please download the LOA Today app. One of the reasons is you're going to get this episode as well as all the other episodes, and you'll also get the goodies that we've had. And there's Linda Armstrong's High Vibe Living course. There's Dan Mangena's Money Game course, and also his audiobook on Beyond Intention. There's Cindy Chavez with her Lovely Magician's Guide to Soulmate Success. So there's a whole bunch of goodies on there, and more coming. David Strickle, The Stream of David. We're going to be adding a meditation from him, and it's just going to keep growing. But the main reason I'm mentioning all this, once again, is to remind you to share, because that's one of the things you were talking about, Carlos, how important it is to share, how important it is to be of service to others and to help others out. Well, our listeners can do the same thing. That's one of the reasons we ask them, please share the LOA Today app with them too, because that's how more and more people get it.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. I mean, thanks for telling your story, and it's nice connecting with you again. After, I mean, it's like 2 years later. It's great.
Yeah, we'll have to connect. Well, after coronavirus, we'll have to connect. Now that I'm on the East Coast, I'm travel back and forth to Connecticut for work as well.
Excellent.
So I'm in the Northeast, so we can link up once once things get a little safer.
Sounds good to me. I think we'll take you up on that. In fact, we are in the process of trying to set ourselves up on local access TV, so that we may actually tie you into something like that too. Cool. So just kind of an idea in the background.
Yeah, I love to see the growth, the app, the possibilities, right? It's growing.
Yeah, we've had a lot of growth. Since you were on, the listenership is about 2.5 times what it was. So it's been
very cool.
really,
yeah,
really
that's super exciting. And it's funny because I remember, not to take too much of your time, but when we first had that conversation, and you told me exactly what your vision was and how it's gonna grow, and you're very pointed in what your thoughts and your feelings were about it, and to our point, here we are.
There it is. It's playing out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, good. Right. Keep doing the good stuff. Let us know what happens. As you go step by step. When you have that next big breakthrough, send us a little post about it, and we'll be sure to include it.
Yeah, we'll stay in contact for sure.
Sounds great.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right, you too.
Thanks so much to everybody. Thanks to our podcast listeners. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.